Let's walk back to what happened in 2013, too, right? When the Supreme Court did actually gut the Voting Rights Act, and then they placed the ball into Congress's court to come up with some new legislation. And for those, maybe refresh our memories to what it is that they dismantled and what it is that Congress has to do now.
Yeah, it's important to understand that not all of the Voting Rights Act has been found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Just one narrow segment of the Voting Rights Act, and it's kind of arcane. It's a piece that's called the coverage formula. It's found in Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. But that coverage formula defined which jurisdictions in the country were covered by something called Section 5. And Section 5 requires these jurisdictions, be they states or localities, whenever they make a change to an election law, they must submit that change to the federal government and demonstrate that the change is not discriminatory. Now, that's very important because it puts the onus upon the localities and the states to show that their change isn't discriminatory. There are still protections that are active in the Voting Rights Act. There's Section 2, but Section 2 requires plaintiffs to bring cases against states and localities, and they have to show then that whatever change of the election law is discriminatory. The burden of proof is shifted to plaintiffs rather than defendants, and it's very costly, very difficult to litigate on these cases. And so until we get a new coverage formula, which then the Supreme Court that's the part that the Supreme Court said was unconstitutional, until we get a new coverage formula, Section 5 protections are virtually non-existent within this country right now.
What is happening on the local level? Jasmyn, why don't you, for example, talk to us about the case that you've been involved in North Carolina?
Absolutely. So in many states on the local level, there are movements building from the ground up that have galvanized a lot of power and actually lawsuits in states like North Carolina and Wisconsin. So I work in North Carolina on the case in North Carolina NAACP versus McCrory, which is challenging the monster voter suppression bill there that not only enforces photo ID, but also has eliminated same-day registration, pre-registration, things that a lot of young people, people of color, and poor people were using to get people out to vote and to register to vote. And so we have challenged that law based on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which was brought up before, as well as the 14th and 15th Amendment. Our trial is set for this summer, and we are hopeful, but know that this will be a long route. There's an entire slew of lawsuits going on around the country that will all go up, not all, but will eventually go up to the Supreme Court level so that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act can be clearly defined and hopefully can be used as a mechanism until there is a Voting Rights Amendment Act put forth by Congress.